Awesome. So we are online. Just checking my audio, video. Okay, cool. Just making sure that you video. All right, cool. Okay, so we are online and welcome to Unlocking Emotional Mastery. We are on the episode number 45. Today we will be discussing very interesting topic as a mother, as a busy mother. It is important that we need to have some brain hacks which can come handy to us to handle our toddler or parenting as an effective role. And today, when we are talking about emotional intelligence, using the brain power that we have, it'll be interesting to know what are those immediate words. What are those, if you have a template or something that you can just use that to be able to have your conversation really good, or to be able to have that understanding, emotional understanding between you and your child, or you and your spouse, or you and anybody around you, whoever you think you want to deepen your connections with. So in this episode, we'll see such templates, such words, phrases that you can use when you want to validate someone's feelings, or when you want to acknowledge, and when you want to converse, keep the conversation going between your child or anybody, right? In any relationship. So if you have that kind of a template, it'll be useful for us, right? Because sometimes we also go through the heat, right? I always say emotional intelligence is not just about others. It is also something to do with us also. When we want to lean our shoulders and support to our child also, at the same time, our cup should also be full, right? It's not all the time we should be on the giving mode. Sometimes we need to receive also. But, uh, it's not always that external support is available for us. So we need to figure out what are those tools that we can, create it and then make use of it whenever it's needed. So today's episode will also be another tool for you. And if you've been watching this episode, we are covering 100 topics about how to boost your emotional quotient as a busy mother, so that you can handle your relationship better, improve your communication, and also handle your emotions, regulate them really well, so that you can change your stressful living to a purposeful living. And my name is Brinda Kalyan Raman. I'm the founder of EQMQ Business Academy, and I'm on a mission to educate and empower women on two subjects, emotional intelligence and digital entrepreneurship. So, this series is dedicated for you to enhance your emotional intelligence, and this is using your brain skills. Okay. So, we will be talking about left brain, right brain, and both, brains, integrating both the brains, logic and emotional brains together to give you that kind of strategies which can come to you handy if it is going to be your own brain power, right? You're not going to externally look forward for any support. It will come to you at that point of time when it is needed. The wisdom is always within you already. Certain principles that I always say for this episode is emotional intelligence is not the outside study. It is more about inward studies. It is already within us, and we have seen such examples around us constantly. In fact, today, instead of taking a case study about somebody else, we'll be talking about very interesting people around us. Okay, we'll see what are the wisdom that we can learn and catch up, with people around us, and be able to use the same thing. Because, um, you know, not everybody would have. There is no mastery in emotional intelligence. There is no mastery in any relation, any role for that matter. It is just evolving. For example, as a parent, we constantly evolve, right? There is no ending. There is no tipping point where you can consider yourself to be a mastering in parenting. So we always grow, we always evolve, because that's how human emotions are. It's very dynamic, it's very complex. It is always evolving. There is no one point where we can always say we have arrived. We understood really the essence of feelings. We can clearly read the emotional state of anybody. It's not that way. In fact, in your own self, you won't be able to exactly pin around what is your emotional state in a particular moment, because it'll all be mixed up, and it'll be sometimes clouded. if you have the clarity, if you have the necessary literacy on emotions, maybe the clarity can come. You can break through that cloudiness. But can you avoid that cloudiness at all? No. That's how, that's what life is all about. So even though you have clarity, you have conviction, you know what you're exactly feeling, and you can read the same in others, but it is not stationed. It never in a position to arrive mastery. It is always constantly evolving, because constantly, and society is also changing, market is changing, environment around us is constantly changing. Before pandemic, the world was totally different, and after pandemic, it is never the same. A lot of technology disrupted happening. Social media has invaded our space and time. Thereby our adaptability also is not just related to human elements anymore. It is also towards technology gadgets. It is also towards how high fastly paced highly competitive industries have become. Even education system has become so competitive. It has only been logical, logically driven education system all the while. But today, right now, we are in mental health pandemic, and it is more than ever we need emotional intelligence as a top skill, uh, starting from our education, schools, career, and even personal relationship. It is important. It doesn't matter that whether you're a full-time mom or you're a career working person or you're an ambitious, already a successful person. Everybody needs emotional intelligence. Even a student, even as a child in an elementary school, it starts from them. We need to tell them how to express clearly their emotions. In fact, know how what are their feelings inside and how do they communicate to us. Because we have been, our parents have been really great, and that is exactly the case study that we will do today. They have been experts in terms of reading emotion, but they also started at some point of time. So similarly, we are also starting. If you are a parent who are watching this, I think it's highly important that we buckle up and learn these skill set, which has not been taught to us so far, right? We really hope that right now the world is churning, and world has to differentiate in starting from education itself. So a lot of schools has to propagate emotional intelligence, and a lot of coaching industries are also, even business industries are also aligning themselves to how they can emotionally, how they can develop their employees and team members, and how they can develop themselves emotionally intelligent in order to combat the daily challenges. One is process related, technology related challenges that we have to constantly be, upgrade ourselves. Another one is human challenges, which is again constant variant, right? Because human beings are very dynamic. They're very different. Even inside a family, I always say this metaphor as five fingers are not same at all. Different sizes, different brain styles, different communication styles, different likes, dislikes, biases. So family itself is a classic example of a complex unit of how human beings are dynamic. So how are we updating ourselves, upgrading ourselves to handle those process related challenges as well as the human related challenges? And that is exactly why emotional intelligence, because we would be talking about a left brain, right brain, which is logic, process driven data in the left brain, and then the right brain deals with emotions, creativity, risk tolerance. Whatever is intangible is what the emotion brain process. Whatever is tangible, that comes in your logical brain. This is my left side, so I denote the left brain like this. But the essence of being emotionally intelligent is to maintain the midbrain activity. So you make sure that you don't overdo on either of this side. You may be a right brain driven person who's very creative, who want people, you energized with the company of people, who's very people person, right? But make sure that you're not swayed by those people's emotions, right? That depends on you because you have the control. You have to make sure that you're not too much of a right brain driven. You'll have to get hold of the logic data as well, and make sure you're not too logical driven, because you cannot dismiss the emotions data, from wherever you're dealing with. Even if you're an individual contributor only working with technology, you yourself are going through emotions. On that note, today what we're going to talk about is for parents. How do you connect with your children really well using emotional insight and empathy, using easy peasy templates that I'm going to give it to you, so that whenever a tantrum situation or an emotionally charged up situation happens, you will be able to read emotions in your child and handle that impact really well, and be able to tell them where they have to direct their own emotions erupting. Because outburst not necessarily only happens for a adult, it can happen even with the child. Maybe you're not able to read that outburst yet, but after this episode you'll never be the same. Okay, on that note, I'm going to start sharing what I have for you today. Awesome. We are on episode number 45. If you're not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so that whenever I'm coming alive, you will be notified, and even for future videos, you will get notified. Not just that, you're also going to win some rewards if you stay till the episode end. Okay. So we are going to be talking about how to understand your kids' emotions and become a better parent. By able to recognize and interpret your child's feelings by reading emotional cues, and also building that connections using effective validation phrases, manage those tantrums and outcomes with emotionally um, empathetic words templates. Okay, that's what. Yes, templates is what we are going to be discussing with a lot of examples also. Let's understand what is understanding your kids' emotions actually about. Using your left brain approach, how does your left brain logical, brain enables this? If you can observe behavior patterns and emotional triggers logically, that means you're activating your left brain. The more you're able to observe their patterns and emotional triggers, your left brain is activated. Okay. And using your right brain, you're going to use empathy to connect with your child's emotional experiences, because that is where you will be connecting with your own emotional experiences also. Suppose you are a person who don't have, I also say a golden principle that you need to remember in the series, or any time after the series also. Okay, remember, emotional intelligence is always two components. One is understanding your own emotions and reading the emotion, same emotion in others. That's how it works. If you cannot read your own emotions, if you cannot understand what you're going through, you will not be an effective um, reader of other people's emotion at all. Your decisions will not be effective. Somewhere you will find it missing, and that will again boomerang. So it starts with self awareness. It starts with self management, and then how you're directing your own emotions. If you cannot regulate your emotions, if you cannot read that outburst, if you cannot identify your triggers, you cannot channelize your own emotions to help others. You need to help yourself first. Okay. So, in order to understand that emotional experience in your child, you must also be aware of your own emotional experiences. Okay, that is a given statement. Okay, with that being said, now you're going to activate your right brain, where you're able to connect with your child's emotional experiences. After that, you're going to integrate both your logical observation with that of your connection of your child's experiences, then put that into action. Only then you can either give them some action, problem solving, or you can give them some structure to it as to how they can, some lessons out of it, how they are able to take it forward. Or it could be some disciplinary action. It could be a warning, it could be a caution, it could be a lesson, it could be a wisdom, whatever it is. Only when you are able to do these both first. Okay, so that is the key message here. Now, benefits of understanding your emotions in child is you are able to build stronger bond. It creates trust and emotional safety between your parent and child. And you're going to have that improved behavior, because help you will be able to manage, help them manage actions by understanding the underlying emotions, because a child cannot, first of all, know what they're feeling, and they cannot interpret also. It's very difficult, being a toddler, how their brain is constantly firing with neurons, right? They are newborn and everything is new for them. Even the entire five senses would not be fully functionally with them. At least they cannot interpret their, emotional sensations, right? So it is important that we handhold them, and for which you as a parent, you need to be skilled. And I'm telling you, the moment we become a parent, we are naturally emotionally intelligent. How many of you feel that? Touch your heart and say, have you felt yourself shifting? You are a totally a different person before bearing. In fact, even during the conception time, a mother goes through a lot of changes, right? A lot of friends have told me that they become emotionally intuitive even during the pregnancy time. They started connecting with the child even more than ever. I mean, even before being told. It's the same case with me. I was totally not aware of all these, you know, what do you call emotionally connecting techniques and all that. Because in our culture, we don't regard emotions that much. We go through experiences as it comes, right? We don't neither dwell on it anymore, nor give that much importance, especially to what is happening within us. But we were always concerned about other people's emotions. That's how we were culturally brought in. But it had its own advantages, right? But now, when you age, it is important as you go through your life, different life stages, teaches you and wants you to become, different. Similarly, when you become a parent, it'll by itself, the wisdom all will come to surface even before you could even be aware. There could be some mastery experiences you would have had. You may know there are a lot of friends who have told me, I don't know how I felt, but this is what I'm feeling. I know when the child will come out. That level of intuitively, they will be connected, right? Especially whatever changes happening within the body, because the child's nervous system and then the mother's nervous system is actually interconnected. And in fact, physiologically, the child's new cells actually cure the mother's illness. And that is why you would have noticed not many mothers fall sick, not always fall sick during conception time, because it's a pretty rare thing unless and until they have the prehistory and all that. But it's a rarest thing that we take care, we nourish ourselves, not just outside medication, but also internally. The child's, the neurons, the new cells, generated cells, actually nourishes the mother also. In turn, we have it. There is a nuanced trade-off happening within ourselves, right, in the womb. Okay, so that itself is created bond. But the moment where they come out, right, you as a mother, your natural instincts will start working. Okay, but as they grow, you also come out of that mothering time, and then when they become a toddler, the more their external senses activated, they become confused, right? But you as an adult, you must have had an experience over. That is the only difference between me and us and the child, right? The only difference is we've got experiences and they don't have it. And how we are going to help them interpret that is the whole responsibility of parenting. So, that being said, one, the talent and the wisdom is already inside us, but are we using it effectively? When it is needed? That is what we are trying to see. We are going to approach cognitively, yet activating the emotional brain also. So, emotional intelligence is cognitive abilities and the emotional abilities together. Okay. So thereby you're going to build stronger bond and improved behavior. You're going to help them act by understanding underlying emotions and reduce the tantrums. You're going to prevent escalating those emotional meltdowns in your child. Okay. Challenges if you don't have this, or what happens when you overdo this. Okay. Emotionally exhaustive, because constantly analyzing what is going on in your child brain is not, it's not a human activity, right? It is a super human, I would say, superhero activity that we don't have to do. It is just whenever the problem occurs, if you can identify before that, that's all is the, if you can identify the triggers, if you can identify the pattern, recurring patterns, you'll be able to prevent it. That simple as that. Because anyway, you're doing it for yourself. By now, if you have been watching this episode, I've been insisting that it is important to do that for ourselves so that you will be able to do it effectively. But it is so that maybe we are very good dealing other people's emotion. We are not yet opened that awareness to ourselves, because I was a classic example of this. Okay. Um, or maybe things worked out really well for others through me. It didn't work out for my own self, right? The indications, the symptoms, the outcomes, the results really worked for others through me, but it didn't work. Yet, because the life situations were like that, and when the life indicates you, that is when I mean, in my personal experience, that is when I got to know that something is happening within me, and I didn't have an interpretation about that at all. That is when I got introduced to emotional intelligence as such. I'm talking about 5 to 6 years before, when I had to quit my company, like peaking experience, peaking performance, 16 years of experience. I had to literally quit to take care of my daughter, but eventually it was a choice. But then the choice didn't actually, you know, the choice that I made actually left me with a overload, residue, and some resentment, which I didn't was able to label it. I didn't know what was it, and then I didn't know how to, interpret or deal with it. Okay. Whereas I'll be able to read the same in others, or probably listen to other people cues and be able to, approach, problem solve sometimes. But when the same thing is happening, I was shaken about uh, not knowing what is, something that is dealing in me, and then how do I, come out of it effectively. Okay. At that point of time, maybe dealing with others could have also been difficult for me. Okay. So such situations can happen for others. You could be in a situation that, in your life, you still not have gone through those experiences which require you to be aware. But do we want to stay till that time when the life is knocking us down? No, we don't want to do that. That is why self-awareness, the entire series itself is giving you awareness, giving you insights. The moment you started watching the series, after watching the series, you are not going to be the same person. That much I can guarantee, because you cannot undo or unsee what you're going through. Okay. So the second thing is overprotection. Now, first thing, in order to avoid exhaustion, you need to mellow down. You need to be able to navigate. Okay. It's a good thing that you're able to understand the cues, but it is also important to have the logic brain, observation, or analysis brain. Slow it down, mellow down those analysis and observation, right? Because you need to be also navigating really well. So overprotection can also be a signal that you tend to shield your children from necessary challenges. We will handicap them. So it is important to have them explore. Okay. Empathy doesn't mean you're going to act on behalf of them. That becomes a compassion. Okay. That's the only difference between empathy and compassion, because it is highly dangerous that you just cannot all the time act out of compassion, because the more you start giving, the more it will be harmful for that person and also for you. In the previous episodes, we have seen that empathy in action and compassionate leadership. If you've not gone through, go through that. It's a nice episode, right? It is not just for necessary for leader as a leadership role. It is also for a parent. It is needed. As an individual also, it is needed to set boundaries and clearly see how to balance, right? So when you have the symptoms of when you're trying to overshadow your child, that means you're overdoing on this particular skill. Okay, you're handicapping your child also, and also you're exhausting your energy power there. Boundary setting, again, as I said, it is important to difficult, it is important to establish that limits while maintaining that empathy. You're also going to educate your child as to how, they know their limits. It's okay to feel angry, but hitting may not be the way of how they want to express their feelings. You see, you're telling them it's okay to be angry. That means you're acting out of empathy, but also fixing the limits. Okay, this is the education that we want to give it to our children, right? Importance of emotional understanding is one, if you don't have it, there's going to be miscommunication, misinterpretation. You won't be able to offer that kind of right kind of help for your children. Okay. Then emotional distance can happen. A lot of parents, especially during our childhood, we've seen examples. Even now, as a parent, we are able to watch other parents. I'm not saying nobody is perfect when it comes to parenting, but not many people are considering the emotional impact of that particular child, right? Of Because of that event, they seem to dismiss the emotional impact, only take the logical impact, like whether, okay, now there is a problem for you, do this and this and this. That's it. You will get the results. So problem solved. No, that's not how the problem is actually solved. Maybe the child problem is something else. It is not always the actual problem tangibly, visibly, happening there. It is more to do with something underlying it. Emotional reasoning, emotional understanding is very, very important. If you miss this time period, there'll be an emotional distance that could be not repaired at all. It could remain as a permanent damage. It will reflect in the character and the behavior, or sometimes it will be a recurring pattern in the child, right? That is why we are all right now churning towards reversal parenting also. Reversal parenting is, ranging between not just the parent who has a toddler. It starts from a toddler time, if you like, 7 years and above, until they are 40, 50, you can actually reverse your parenting. If you have a child, you may be at 60 years now. Even when you are ready to reverse your parenting codes, the generation, that program that you have coded in your child can still be reversed if you are willing to reverse that code in you. Okay. We have recently gone through that reversal parenting, me and my husband. Luckily, we have done that in the earlier stages of our child's age. But imagine if we have to do, if our parents have to do the reversal parenting for us, right? It's going to be very difficult. But science says it is still possible. 60% of our decoding can happen. You can actually recode, regenerate. Okay. Which means our parents can still do it on us. You see how, the range of emotional damages can happen, and it is still possible that you can revisit on it. That is why emotional intelligence is not mastery at all. It doesn't stop with any age. It is needed for a toddler as much as it's needed for a 60-year-old. Okay. Statistically, it shows that 40% higher emotional intelligence children have. Okay. Now it shows 40% higher emotional intelligence with emotionally understanding parents. Children become emotionally intelligent if they have an emotionally intelligent parents. And by now, emotionally intelligent children thrive really well, in life, statistically also. It is not because in this episode, you would have seen me, giving you a lot of case studies about talking about, people who are leading in their industry, who are successful. How are they successful? They have not caught up with emotional intelligence just because they landed in a high-tech company. It is already within them. They have been practicing. It's been there as an habitual patterns in them. They would have been, it's a skill in them, it's a talent in them, it's the brain power in them. That is what is manifesting in the critical situations. Of course, there are learned skills, because emotional intelligence can still be learned. There are certain talents we can still learn. That is why I always say, if you're a left brain driven, you can learn the right brain activities. So while it is learnable, it is also something which already in us. So what are those talents which is already in you? You can leverage that as your leverage for your area of improvement. But it is learnable skills. Okay. Who needs this emotional understanding skills? Parents, of course, who want to, align with their emotional connection with their children. Caregivers, teachers about supporting children's emotional development, and child therapist. Okay. Practically any parent, whether it's dad or mom, any elders. Okay. We are all as an elder, even as your neighbor, as a neighbor, as a citizen, as a community leader, as a, I would say, as a relative. It is my responsibility to, have that understanding, emotional understanding to any children. It's not just to do with my child. It is also to do with my nephews, niece, extended, my child's friends, right? It goes that way, because parenting is just not limited to, of course, biologically and economically, we are limited. But then compassionately, we can have that understanding with any children, right? So practically every adult needs this. Applying emotional, understanding in school stress. How can you handle when there is a school stress happening? You're going to recognize the signs first. Okay. So if there is a loss of interest, if the child goes on avoiding homework or goes silent, there is an indication for you. And then you're going to offer support. by creating that kind of an environment, what is needed for the child. A couple of times my child, struggles. She's good with numbers, but somewhere, the belief that she has, some narration is going on inside her, or something would have bothered her during the day or the previous day. Right now, it has clouded her judgment of solving the problems. So she just sits with that and she gets stressed thinking about future, what is going to happen. You see how it is all connected. Unless she comes and tells me, or unless I go and identify the signals, either way it should happen, right? If a child is matured enough to come and ask for help, okay, but then without that, it is our job to understand that signals and then offer that right kind of a support. So immediately when I knew that it is, there is a problem, I tend to create that kind of environment. I immediately drop everything what I do. If it is possible for me to do so, I'll do so. Otherwise, also, I'll create the supporting hand for her. Okay. I'm sure all moms are doing, all parents are doing, but are we doing at the right time? So that is what is the awareness here. Okay. Adjust routines. Accordingly, we're going to balance our study times with break times for physical activity for the children. Right? All of us, especially as a parent, we exactly know how much of physical activity is needed. If you're not, then please make sure that that breaking a sweat is needed for a child. That's where they have to let out their energy. Only then they can get good sleep, they'll build social skills, their blood circulation really works, their hair growth, or whatever growth biologically happens really well with physical activity. That's where their brain also tends to focus. That is how they're going to release their energy, negative energy, right? That's their outlet. So please make sure that you have that physical activity break. And an outdoor play is very, very important. Places like this in the Western world, sometimes it goes like the winter sets in like 3 to 6 months, right? We don't find the sun at all. That has a biological effect also. Adults started feeling depression. Sometimes they go to an extreme crankiness. All that can happen. Even for a child, it is bound to happen. So please make sure that environment is created that way. And managing tantrums using emotional insight. How can you do that? You're going to identify the triggers by noticing the patterns even before it occurs. Or at least now, if you're starting, based on the behavior, identify what is the reason behind this behavior. If you can, what are the cues they are giving? For example, it could be a tantrum, closed arms. That's the first thing that we all learn when it comes to body language. Closed arms, closed fist itself is an indication of some, what do you call it? Suppressed emotion. It could be an anger or closed opinion. They're not open enough. Okay. So if the child is overreacting, they're throwing some tantrums, maybe there's some crankiness. It could be a result of not having enough sleep, or just before their nap time, they go cranky, or after they, take oversleep, overslept. That could also be a crankiness, or maybe because of hunger. We all know this. As a parent, it is quite natural for us to identify it within the child. And then sometimes it could be an ability, inability to do some things. There could also be a tantrum. Simple things like tying shoelaces. In my life, examples. I mean, I've just given examples of what has happened. Simple things that we can find out, right? When she was a toddler, when she was struggling to tie a lace and then be on time for a bus ride, it frustrates her, right? So we need to tend that example, and then also make sure that, of course, they learn quickly, but then in the initial time, the tantrums could be from that. They are not able to, pause and assess and then be able to interpret to us. So these are the areas that naturally the mother, or, that caregivers are inclined to know. But do we know the emotional impact of it? That's all I'm insisting you to be aware of it. Because of that emotional impact, because of that, maybe, the frustration of missing out the recess time because they didn't know how to tie the lace. They have missed out their friendship times, right? So maybe that, embarrassment or from, frustration could be still be with the child. They may be carrying that, right? Although as a children, it is very easy for them to navigate, with the distractions, but that impact will still be there. Similarly, if you have yelled at them, if you have lashed out, that impact could still be with them. They may not be able to show it out, but it is still as a residue with them. So how are we identifying the root cause? So it is very important to look beyond that behavior. Look beyond that meltdown, find out that emotional reasoning behind it, and then fix it by keeping a schedule or whatever it is. So you're going to prevent the future incidents by doing these two steps. You're going to identify the triggers and address the root cause first. If you can address that emotional impact, then it won't reoccur. Okay? Emotional understandings between sibling conflicts is very, very tricky. Okay, let's see three ways how to deal with that. Between the siblings, how can you go and mitigate that as a parent? We constantly deal with it, right? So first thing is you're going to recognize emotions. You're going to identify the underlying feelings. For example, if there are two siblings and the elder one keeps lashing out or criticizing the younger one's artwork or something, okay? You should understand why it is happening with the elder one, first of all. Maybe the elder one feels that it is by doing so, they are trying to give you a signal that they are losing the attention and focus because the younger one is able to excel. Okay, if that is so, we need to address that issue with the elder one. Maybe you take a time off to have a one-on-one check-in, and then fix it there. And with the younger one, because of the same event, you should also be able to understand the emotional impact, because it is not taken for granted that just because they are excelling in the artwork, with the criticism, how are they able to react? Have they taken it positively, or they're still younger, maybe they don't have that experience to maturely handle. We still have to address that. It is tough, too many things to handle as a parent when it comes to siblings conflicts. But if you can approach this way to address the emotional impact, then it won't reoccur, is what I'm trying to say. Mediate effectively. Okay, by doing so, by reading their emotional cues, you're able to tap those disputes between those siblings. Okay, it could still be a tight fight over a toy, or it could be anything smaller or bigger. Even if before it could escalate to a bigger issue, if you can address that tantrums, the desire, wants, biases behind that, by saying, I see that you're frustrated, waiting for your turn, but I understand that you're not finished playing yet. Let's set a timer for 5 minutes to play it fairly. So that way you're mediating effectively. You doing a one-on-one checking can address the root issues, but when it is on the surface level, it is important to play it fair, right? Because that's how the biases doesn't occur. Otherwise, not every time you can do a one-on-one, right? There is something that they have to evolve, experiment and evolve. And otherwise we are going to handicap them, because world is not going to treat them that way. We don't get a one-on-one treatment for with anybody. At least with my parents also, I never got that much one-on-one. It is always on the surface level, plain instructions for everybody. It's a common consistent instructions, right? But if you have to identify the patterns which is recurring, and then for you to identify the triggers even before they escalate, then you may want to address this root cause, immediately fix it by fostering empathy. Okay. So once you're able to recognize, you're able to mediate effectively, you're also going to foster the empathy there. Okay. How you're going to do it is you're going to encourage that older sibling to remember how it felt when such criticism was given to that, to her or to him. So you can always teach them that, remember when you were learning to tie your shoes, you also had delayed. You also didn't pick up the timing. So why can't you, instead of being frustrated, why can't you teach your sister or your brother to finally master it? So you see, you are asking them to own it, putting the responsibility there by fostering the empathy. You're asking them to open their eyes to see through the problem in the other person and help them. Literally standing in their shoes and literally help them tying the shoes. Okay. So that is the parent's responsibility. That is where you're also being empathetic at the same time teaching them. You're going to identify social changes by guiding friendships in emotional understanding. You're going to identify social changes for them. So It is important to, have, uh, if they are trying to, if they are frustrated because they are losing their playtime during the recess, you could understand their hesitation and offer them what is supposed to be done. Okay, maybe join them from group activities after that, or have a, play date planned because they have missed their recess time. Maybe you can have a play date planned for them. By doing so, they will also identify what could be the social challenges, what have they done. If your child is consistently playing alone during their recess time, then there is a problem. But if one or two times they miss, then it is okay. But if they are constantly playing alone, then there is a social problems. And teach conflict resolution. Okay, so guide your children to resolve disagreements with using empathy and communication. When two friends are fighting, instead of just accepting, compromising, or just shutting themselves down, or aggressively, putting their foot down, that saying that this is my turn and I need it, instead of that, why don't you teach the children, what if we teach them to, ask them to, express their feelings clearly, and also find solutions to mediate it very clearly. You can also tell them to take that leadership role, to tell them, oh, okay, so there seems to be a fairness that all of us are needing. So can we take turns, like, alphabetical order, or keep up the timing? Something like that will also enable your children to lead with empathy. Okay, and it's also going to boost their self confidence. By supporting emotional growth to improve their social interactions, you're going to ask them to start small by practicing skills at home. I always tell this to my child, that, take home as a practice ground, and then it will come. But how do you do that? Maybe you can have a role play, because role play is a classic example of making them know their own emotions, feelings, and others also. I do this constantly with my child. Supporting overall well being. You're going to recognize emotional needs by staying alert to subtle signs to indicate what is indicating their emotional state. And you're going to promote that social interactions by creating opportunities for meaningful connections with their friends and family members. Maybe you can plan a friends date, two families date, where those two friends can, having the conflicts, can actually resolve, become friendly. Thereby, you're also boosting their self-esteem. So by using emotional understanding to nurture your child's sense of self-worth. For example, if your child faces a challenge, you're going to acknowledge their feeling and highlight their past experiences. Ask them to think. I always do this whenever my child comes with some, academic challenges. I always ask her to look for her mastery experiences earlier times, how she was able to approach, in behaviorally, mindset wise. So it may not be the same problem now, because when she was a elementary school kid, the problems that she had could be different. But right now, as a high school or mid school, it could be different. But then the approach can be still be, same, right? The mindset, the way they see the problem could change. It is important to even have that inculcated at all experience, all aspects of life, because they are going to use their own wisdom, what they have gained through their own mastery experience. It will definitely boost their self-esteem. Now let's talk about quickly about 5 brain hacks which can use. First is observing non-verbal cues. That's your left brain. You're going to observe body language, gestures, postures, physical tensions, eyebrows frowning, or, closed arms. All these are 100 different cues talking about their inner feelings to you. Okay. Facial expressions, tone of voice. These could be classic example. So this observation, if you do, you're actually activating your left brain skills. And asking open-ended questions use your left brain again. You're going to encourage expression. Okay. Tell me, see, instead of, how are you feeling? Right? If are you feeling okay? Instead of saying a yes or no for it, if you can ask, how are you feeling? That means they can add few more words to tell you. For example, tell me about the most interesting thing. So when they come from school, what did you do at school? Could be a common question, right? So maybe they can list down in bullet points and then finish it. But instead, tell me something interesting that happened in school. Then they will open up with stories. Okay, that's how you're inviting a conversation. Avoiding a yes or no conversations, questions. So you're going to replace that, did you have fun at school? That will only be yes or no. Instead, you're going to ask them, what games did you play? And what was more interesting about it? Tell me more. Those are cues that, will invite more conversation. And then also follow up questions, right? When your child mentions my art projects was very hard, you're not just going to, stop saying, okay, I understand. Why don't you have the snacks? It's not a part of deviation. It's more about understanding what happened after that. If you are aiming to understand the emotional impact, you need to ask invoking questions. So you can end up asking, what parts of the arts was harder for you? So that way you're going to understand the difficulty in the child. Maybe you can offer solutions better if you can dwell on it. And you can also have a follow-up question the next time, when they are finished with the hard work, the project work, you can still ask them, how did it actually go through? How did you feel? And what did you learn? And that way you can actually get a cue whether your child is actually excellent at that point or not. That way you can even check for their extracurricular activities based on their interest level. Okay. And you're going to practice active listening as well. That's your right brain. You're going to give full attention by, keeping your phone down, because by putting your, uh, you know, by paying full attention, by keeping eye contact, your, the nodding of head and not fidgeting on your phone, that itself is a great indication that you are being with them. So that itself will tell your child that you are reassuring your presence. They have been heard. Okay. You're going to also avoid interrupting. Let them speak. And, you're going to ask them more how they have felt. You can ask them as to, you know, uh, I can see you have more to tell me about what happened with a particular friend. Please continue. So that way, even if you're once or twice interrupted, you can still ask them to keep continuing, because interrupting is the, killer of any conversation. And you're going to ask them to reflect and validate. Mirror back with your child has shared to ensure what you have understood correctly or not. That is the point of reassurance. Suppose you have understood totally wrong, the imagine how it'll be damaged feeling for the child. It'll hurt them even more, right? And then they will assume that, okay, mama is not listening at all, there is no use. They'll start suppressing their emotions. It is not just, your presence, it is also how you have made them feel heard and valued. And that's how you're going to validate your emotions also. That's your right brain. So how you're going to do is acknowledge feelings. You're going to say, I can see you're feeling frustrated about losing, and that's okay, first of all. Okay. You're reassuring them that it's quite normal. You're not blaming them. So then they will open up by, when you use empathetic phrases like, I understand you're feeling disappointed by, because it has happened, but it's quite natural to feel left out sometimes. These words can help that child to open up, right? Avoid dismissing emotions also. Instead of saying, you shouldn't feel that way, or I've also felt that way. That is a total stopper, I would say. Instead, avoid saying all that it's not a big deal, or it always happens. It has always been that way. So that's not what your child wants you to listen, because it could be a new experience for them. Your experience may not be validating for their experiences. So instead, you can say, I hear that you're, feeling disappointed. Would you still like to talk about it? Then that means you're valuing them. And then setting emotional boundaries is also important. Showing empathy, you can show your empathy, but you tell them you're feeling, I can see that you're feeling really angry. But then hitting is not the way you approach your anger. Or hitting is not the way you express your anger. That way you're, teaching them how to limit their, or how to regulate their emotions. What else to be done is something that we are teaching them. So you're teaching them coping skills. Okay. For example, maybe take a deep breathing. It's like, if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling overwhelmed, tight, in your chest, just blow like a balloon, like 1, 2, 3, deep breath, and then just release. That way they'll know what to do also. Many times we are aware of it, that it is right and wrong, but we don't know how to release it, how to deal with it. That is where we are going to help them. I'm sure all these hacks would definitely be helpful, and some of them you're already using it. So that is why today's case study is about our own self and our own family people, our own mothers and dads, how our own parents, our own elders have helped us, uh, you know, go through all these challenges. Sometimes it could be the skills that is present in people around us can be a brain hacks for us. See, the observation skills, how parents or elders in our family had observed our behaviors to adjust their parenting style. That could be a classic example. And how, they may be, they may be still be busy in their own worlds, and in that generation, earning money and traveling, having no gadgets like this, no inconveniences. It could have been even more harder for them. But then how did they adjust their parenting style for our needs, right? And then empathy and connection. How did they prioritize spending time and listening to our concerns? And how did they establish the compassionate leadership? So emphasizing emotional understanding and connections in parenting is very, very important. And how did they do? Really well. Recognizing, if you can understand those cues, you will know that it is in us already. It has been passed on to us. So you can become a better parent yourself already. But in case you want to recognize those nonverbal cues, how can you read it? Then for anxiety, you will know that they are, tense posture. Maybe they are stuttering, or they are like blinking their eyes, or they're staring, right? Furrowed eyebrows can, go narrow. If they're excited, maybe they're bouncing, fidgeting, they're not in one place, right? Wider eyes, big smile, and all that. Sadness, slumped shoulders, like, they go down, right? And their mouth could also, downturned. They're not wide open, they're like a mum. So it's very difficult for them to open their mouth sometimes, right? So how effective open-ended questions can also help you. So these are some quick tips. So you're going to use open-ended questions and also start reading nonverbal cues. So when you want to effectively have an open-ended questions, you're going to take 3 steps. One, explore their feelings, first of all. Okay. You need to know the data point, right? Because accordingly only you can question them. So you need to understand. So by asking, how did the situation make you feel? Then you're ready to get cues, data points from them. Then you are able to understand. So what do you think about what happened? And then you are going to encourage solutions from them only. So it's beautiful that in American school, in one of the teachers said, is it a big problem or a small problem? So immediately, the child goes into an explorative mode. They start seeking solutions by themselves. They become very self-dependent. Okay. So what ideas do you have to make things better? So 3 steps. One is let them explore their feelings by asking, how did the situation make you feel? So they're going to think about what did they go through and then tell you, and understand their perspectives. How do you think, what do you think about what happened? You're making them understand different perspectives. It could be like your feeling and my friend's feeling, role play can happen. Then they will understand multiple perspectives. Sometimes that will diffuse the situation itself. And then diffuse the anger or diffuse the intensity of the situation. And then you're asking them to explore ideas by themselves, right? So you're going to ask them to practice active listening skills also. Listening by, first of all, you giving them complete attention without any distractions, asking them to, nod and pay eye contact, just like how you show. And then paraphrase it, repeat back what you've heard from your child, and also teach the same thing, how they have to handle it. So that way, emotional validation phrases you can use is like, when you want to acknowledge, you can say, I can see that you're feeling really upset right now. So that itself, you can attach that emotion, whatever emotion, just tell them that you're feeling it. Okay. And normalizing it. How do you do that? It's okay to feel angry. It's normal. That way you're reducing the intensity. And then you're lending the support saying, I'm here for you. Let's work together. Okay. This is how you go through in case you still have a doubt as to whether you are there right now in that position or not. You have the skill in you or not. I have a gift for you. So I have something called EQ quiz bundles that I offer at the end of this episode. I I may be offering this for the entire series, but this offer will stay only till episode number 50. After that, this offer will not be there. So make use of it. How can you do that? If you can engage your super hacks that has worked for you or any insights that you got from this episode, engage that as a comments below. If I see your comments, I'm going to give you a 100% free coupon code to access this entire 100 episodes quiz bundles so that you can know where you stand in any episode, any skill set that we are talking. From there on, you can also improve your area of improvement. Okay. Apart from that, I have a masterclass, very interesting brain skills masterclass only for women. You can understand whether you're left brain driven, right brain driven, or both brain. All that can be discussed in the masterclass by using sample reports. And I will also tell you how you will find your unique brain styles. Finally, if you like this episode and if you feel this has been insightful for you, I'm sure around 20, 30 tips that we have discussed here, if only you're able to act on it, like even if you're taking few insights and then act on it, and if you've really got some outcomes, please do let me know. I'll be more than happy to share with you more and more. It'll be inspiration for me also. So finally, if you like it, give me that love symbol, like symbol, and share it with somebody whom you think it's most needed, because we need to spread emotional intelligence, uh, you know, to the people that we all know, especially to the loved ones, so that they will be able to help their loved ones. Okay. With that being said, I'll see you in the another episode tomorrow. Until such time, subscribe to my YouTube channel and subscribe to my Spotify. You're getting the same thing in podcast in a very different version, and Substack platforms where articles are going to come to. So all the links are given in the description.